Milton, you golf?
Yes.
You want to get out there?
Yeah, let me know when.
Dude, let's do it.
All right, everybody, this is the Off the Charts podcast. We have a special guest today, somebody with, a deep, long friendship with our boy Steve Strazza there. Strazza, set the stage. Who are we talking to today?
So, Sean, you called me yesterday. You said, who the fuck is Milton Marmanides? Okay.
I don't know if I use those words, but yes.
You did. You said, who is this guy? First of all, more people should know him. JC, Spencer, some of the other guys at ASC have had the pleasure of meeting him. Milton will always have a special place in my heart. He's on my Mount Rushmore of trading and investing mentors. I spent a lot of time in Milton's office back in the day. So this is going to be like a really special treat for me. I'm excited about this interview.
Sounds like it's going to be a love fest.
It might be. Hold me back. Listen, but here's the truth about it, right? The VIX spiked 2 Mondays ago. We're all reaching out, to the people that we know in the industry. What the hell is going on? The first person that I ping in an environment like that is Milton. There's nobody more plugged in than Milton. He's sitting at his desk all day talking to other traders, talking to other trading desks, right? That's exactly who I go to try to figure out what the hell is going on in a messy market. So, this is somebody who has a special place in my heart. I'm so excited about this interview. Bring Milton on. Let's just dive right into it. I made a joke.
Let's have a look at this Milton. Let me see him.
I made a joke.
Oh.
Right? No, I get nostalgic when I see Milton's background because I spent time in this office. What was it, 2016, 2017? A long time ago. When was that, Milt?
It was back in, I think even a little before that, 2015, 2000. Yeah, about that, 2015, 2016. That's when it all started, I guess you can say. All the work we've done, either in regards to the research or trying it out or getting ideas, you've been there with me since the actual beginning, which is crazy, especially in this business, to be friends for this long.
9 years.
When it comes to all of these, people always making comments in regards to the finance industry as people, taking advantage of others or this or that. Yeah. It's hard to trust people, having a friend, having someone to bounce ideas off and to help actually grow what my vision was. It's a privilege to be a part of this call today.
Well, maybe we should back up and explain to people what the beginning was, what this vision is. Strazza, why don't you set the table?
So Milton is the founder of the Trade Exchange. When I was in his office back in the day, it was probably more of an idea even than a startup. We were trying different things. We were experimenting with different formats in terms of content and how to reach people. And the Trade Exchange is basically, to me, it's a market data forum, right? That gives you breaking news, breaking and timely information. But what Milton's doing, he's like an AI bot before AI, right? He's got literally, I wish we could turn the camera around on him right now. He's got literally 12 screens in front of him. And he's just receiving data feeds. Correct me about all the things I'm wrong about right now.
Data feeds. 12 screens, 2 laptops.
Yeah, 2 laptops too.
3 different desktops, so I have 3 different systems. It's a lot, but it came to a point where this is easy for me. I can look at 12 different screens, move my hands to 3 different desktops, 2 laptops, and it won't even be a bother.
Let's be clear. You don't have 12 screens because you're trading. You're not trading. You are in the business of disseminating data to traders.
Yes. So yes, right? All we do at the Trade Exchange is provide an unbiased view in regards to content and information. That's why we do not trade. We don't want people to think, oh, well, you're providing this because you're involved in the name. No, everything we do is for our members. So we provide information, content, in regards to anything from momentum to a headline to economic data, options, specifically for our members. That's why, we made it clear to anybody associated with the Trade Exchange, no trading is allowed at the business, at the company.
So it's the tagline for Trade Exchange is built for traders by traders, right? Yes. So the bottom line about what he's putting through the forum is it's stuff that matters, right? And he filters through the noise. And that's really the value of the service. It's that it's not just a giant data dump, right? Where you just get lost in the shit, right? It gets dumped to Milton. He sits in this crazy, cockpit
Galare.
with 12 screens, right? And then he's filtering in real time and then sending through the stuff that matters. But it takes a real trader to do that. Milton is not a trader today, right? This is a trader's podcast. It's very important to distinguish the difference, right? Milton used to be a trader. He's not a trader today because he basically found something that we all needed so much as traders. They said, you know what? This is my mission now. We're going to jump into that in a second. But first, buddy.
Yes.
You remember this?
Yes, I do.
You do?
I do.
So I'm going to send you a new one. So this is a book that I don't know if I stole it off of Milton's shelf or if he gave it to me, but
probably
this is what's happened to it since, right?
Listen, that's I like that, you know.
Right. So I'm going to send you a new one. Milton gave this to me probably 8 or 9 years ago. It was one of the first books I ever received on technical analysis. I was going through my transition at the time. Sean knows a lot about this. I was like a rehabilitated fundamental value investor. And
that transition. This is 2024. You got to be clear.
I had, quit the accounting business, right? And I was trying to move into this new world. And Milton was like, you got to read this. And I did. And I don't know who this guy is, Alan S. Farley, the master swing trader, but
listen, it provides you with the knowledge that, in my opinion, you need to understand the technical analysis aspect.
Yes.
I love listen, there's many different ways you can be a trader. You can be a technical trader, a momentum trader, fundamentals. Yeah. You could trade off of hearsay. But the way I learned the business, and I've been doing this prior to Trade Exchange for about literally 20, 25 years, it's based on technical analysis. And then through technical analysis, I was able to work the way of information utilized with technical. It's a weird mindset, but utilizing news and content with technical analysis, it gave me that extra step, I believe, in regards to getting an idea of what kind of information will move a market, what kind of information will move the stock, and that is where the differences come when Trade Exchange. It's just like you said, we're built for traders by traders. It's not like I was just some random person that found a way to figure out information. I've been doing this my whole life. It's a passion. This business. If it's not a passion for you, then you're in the wrong business. It was the passion that made me think to myself, there's got to be a better way for other people to get information without, going crazy and trying to figure out, is this something that's usable? Can I use this? Can I use that? Yeah. And correlating that, Steve, with the technical analysis made me a better provider of information.
Is it about like the what versus the why kind of a thing? Right, like you're covering why moves happen a lot of times through the forum, right? But you're distinguishing between, okay, a Bank of Japan did this, but then the reaction was crazy, right? As opposed to that, like, can you talk about that a little bit? It's like when something happens that we would expect big price action, and then it doesn't. You're kind of separating that for us. It's like a company comes out, they miss earnings, but the stock rips anyway.
Exactly. So you hit it right on the ball right there. That's what it comes down to. Understanding how news and information could affect the stock or markets is very difficult to get. Like, people would think to themselves, oh my God, why is the stock moving? Like, if something happens, if the market drops, 5, 6, 7 handles, and people are like, what's going on? What's going on? It's weird throughout my time with Trade Exchange to get an idea of the volume sometimes precedes the information. And, you always wonder, how do these people know? We all know in finance, there's, it's a tree, either you're at the top of the tree or, you got to work your way down. But getting an understanding of the information and thinking to yourself, okay, the market got hit because of A. Then you go from A, it becomes like a domino effect. So when, let's say, a few weeks back when the markets dropped at 10, 12%, I was getting phone calls nonstop. The question is, what happened? So
I was one of them.
Yeah, listen, and people are, and I love those phone calls because it gives me the ability to share some of the knowledge that I have to people that, probably don't follow that mindset. So, everyone knows there are so many issues going on in this world today, either, on the global mindset with the Middle East and Ukraine, and then you have what's going on in the US with, we recently had earnings and the economic data.
Yep.
When the negativity starts, it's like a domino effect. So everyone's like, okay, it's either the yen carry trade or, it's Buffett selling Apple. What does he know? Is it the more headlines in the middle? And people just try to figure out what the reason is. But the reason was always there. So people have to understand that, yeah, you're going to get some selling. The market had a big move. Expect a little profit taking, and then people add more to what is really going on behind the scenes to try to distinguish why is the market dropping. They come to us, they're like, listen, guys, it's really nothing. And now, I told people, listen, you have so much going on in the background that hasn't affected the market in years. All of a sudden, you see a downtick and people get worried. It's not really something to worry about. And clearly the market just made the move basically all the way back because it was just a little fear. You saw the VIX go to 60s, a little fear that wasn't experienced for quite some time. And people didn't know how to react. You really haven't had a drop like that with volatility hitting such a high level in how many years? So it's tough for people to react without really knowing why they're reacting. It became a momentum sell and people were getting worried. When in reality, it was really nothing. It was known information. This was, the Buffett thing. Yeah, okay. So you had, so many, three top hedge funds sold NVIDIA. Are you going to sell NVIDIA now because they sold NVIDIA? They're probably up 60, 70% on the position.
No, dude, they're up 400%.
Exactly. So why would you see people take too much, and that's what happens when you start to see a little weakness in the market. People try to figure out why it's happening. And then it just becomes a domino effect. And, people get scared and they just don't understand that was already known. The information was out there somewhat, somewhere, that's what we provide. And people just got scared, I think, and clearly that's what happened because the market's basically back to where it was prior to all of this selling. It's tough because in this market right now, people think we're so overextended that any downtake, they think it's the end. And then they get
to see that. You started to see the profit. You started to see that profit taking domino in early August. So Sean, he's talking about August 5th, right? So he got a lot of phone calls. August 5th, there was a historic spike in the VIX.
What are we calling that now? We calling that the August 5th event? Do we have a name for that yet? We're workshopping.
The 1 day recession. That's what it seems like because people were going crazy.
But seriously,
economic data off of one print.
No, but listen, we try not to talk about current market events, but I think this is a good one. We'll look back and say it's good. We did a little case study on this. So let's stay on this for a second. We're talking about what happened August 5th, 2024. VIX spiked in a historic way, if only intraday, but at the open, it was up almost 300%. Yeah. Never seen anything like that. Futures traders will tell you that was a bad print. That's fake. The index did that. The futures did not. Fine. I think that's a valid argument. Great. However, so I reached out to Milton that day. It was one of these days where I'm like, what the fuck is going on? The yen carry trade can do this? Like BOJ surprise rate hike can do this? So I reached out to Milton. What's going on? He goes, I don't know. I'm hearing ISM. I'm hearing the Trump Kamala flip. Yes. I'm hearing crazy things on Wayfair earnings, right? And we're both together trying to figure out. We're 2 weeks removed now. And like you're saying, the market has repaired a lot of, not all of, but most of the damage.
A majority, yes.
Yeah, the majority of the damage. I think we've retraced about 62% in the major averages by now of that sell-off. So when you look back now 2 weeks later, right, where people want to come to you and say, why? It's the what that matters. But people come to you and say, why? Why did this happen? What would your answer be looking back 2 weeks?
To be honest, if someone, I had someone today reach out to me, one of the people that utilize the service, and just a regular trader, and he was like, "No, what do you think really happened?"
Yeah.
And to be honest with you, I think it was just basically just people don't know how to trade a down market. I don't know if I can clarify that a little bit. We've been in an industry where, market-wise, where we really haven't seen a quick drop since COVID, and that was when 3-4 years ago.
Yeah, you're right.
So during that period, we've had a lot of new traders come into the business. They don't understand that sometimes a market needs to come back because it needs to relax a little bit, even though it was very fast. It needs that to be able to be like, okay, all the weekends are out. Let's relax for a little bit, and then the next move is back up to highs. Will it go to highs? I don't know. I'm not here to predict where the market would go, but I honestly believe it was a quick shot of fear, and it's so weird to me that everything that I watched that day, everyone was saying it's the end. I don't want to name names, but people were saying, you got to sell, you got to do this, you got to do that. And literally 2 days later, everyone's like, you got to buy everything. It's over. It's done. And I'm just like,
guys. I'm the guy now. Yeah.
It's and I think that is just, it's something that, I honestly believe it's like a somewhat of fear, because people are like, is it over? I got to take my profits off the table. We're going into an election season. There's a lot going on. There are a lot of big numbers coming with the CPI and the PPI and retail sales. All of a sudden, the claims number is moving the market. When has that ever happened? But that's where that fear came in, where people were scared. And then reality is like, you know what? It's not that bad. The Fed's going to cut. It's expected.
So would you say it was profit taking turned into downside momentum?
Yes.
Right?
Yes. I think that's exactly what it was. I think
standard profit taking. If you were
I
taking
think it
profit,
was people got a little shaky off that payroll number, and then you had the Buffett headlines. I think it was a little profit taking, and then people took that a little too far and got scared. And you saw the volatility come in, and then people realized, you know what, it's not that bad.
The stocks that got hit the
fight
worst.
The market, man. You can't fight the Fed. The Fed's going to come out and cut. No matter what they do at this point. If they don't, then we got a problem. But they're going to come out and cut, and hopefully, that will put some sort of a stop in the thought process that the economy is not. I believe the economy is very strong. I see it. I'm on the East Coast. I see it everywhere I go. So I think it was
Milton, the economy's always strong where you live. I got news for you, dog.
And exactly, I live in imagination land over here. So I everyone tells me that they're like, you can't judge, but I have to I like to get an idea from what I can actually see. And from what I see, it's not that bad up here, but it's and that's where the business comes into play, because I get a lot of people giving me their thoughts, ideas, because this is what I do. I look at things all day long, headlines, social medias, and, people come to me for those answers. And sometimes they don't like the answer I provide them, but it's just after doing this for 25, 30, it's something that people listen to, I guess you can say.
So Milton, I think you have a unique perspective here to offer, because when I hear you talk about all these data feeds that you're paying attention to and the headlines, the first thought I have is analysis by paralysis. I'm sure you've heard that phrase before.
Yes.
And there may be a bit of that came into play during this volatility event in early August, right? You had a bunch of data points. No one data point in isolation really is any cause for major concern, but there were a lot of things happening all at once. Do you think that maybe we just had a moment in time where just everyone was getting overwhelmed by all these data points, and they were just paralyzed with fear, and they did the one thing they know how to do when they're scared, and that is they exit everything and hit the button,
exactly,
the eject button.
And I think you are 100% correct.
And there was the Middle East too, right? There was like the war stuff going on that day also.
There was war stuff. There was stuff with Ukraine actually going into Russia. Right. You had the Middle East things. It was just, a bunch of information that one thing triggered the quote unquote fear selling, and then it just cascaded. And people were just like, oh, it's because of this, it's because of that. I must have heard that day, guys, maybe 15 different reasons why the market did what the market did.
Right.
And then I tell them, I'm like, but this has been going on. You know, they were telling me about, I'm like, the Middle East has been going on for how long now? The Russia-Ukraine thing has been going on for so long. You know, it's sometimes it just needs to, it can't go up every day. The markets, it needs to, as a technical analysis, you need that pullback.
Yes.
You want a pullback of like 5 to 10%, to build that, the ranges and the breakout heights. It needs to happen, but people sometimes just get scared.
Well, Milton, give us a tip here for traders who maybe occasionally suffer from analysis paralysis. What do you do? Because it sounds like you're pretty good at this. You're pretty good at filtering through all the noise and getting to the nugget or the nuggets that matter. What are some tricks that somebody who has to process information, a lot of information, and make decisions quickly? Do you have any heuristics that you use? Anything that always works for you in a jam when things are getting crazy? Like, how do you get to the meat of it?
Even though this is something that someone in my business should not be saying, sometimes I think you need to avoid the news. I think you really, especially if you are not an experienced trader, sometimes taking a step back in situations where the market's a little too volatile, sometimes it's best to take a step back and let the market do what it needs to do. The market's not always going to go up. If the market was going to go up every day, everyone in this world would be a trader. The market's going to have fluctuations. The market's going to have these gyrations and movements, sometimes a little more than others. But, for a trader, sometimes when it comes to, if they ask me, what do I look at? What do I follow? Sometimes I'm just like, just take a step back and, let things do what they need to do. Because a lot of times in certain situations when the market is very weak, a lot of negative things come out. And you have to avoid those because it just adds more fear. I've noticed that. Those 2-3 days when the market dropped, I can honestly tell you, information that I posted inside of Trade Exchange was halved because it was just nonstop negative commentary, negative information. And you have to push that aside because we have to understand, like I understand that, especially when it comes to social media and, watching the media on TV or whatever is out there, they do this because it adds more viewers, it adds clicks, it adds this, it adds that. You need to be able to understand that in a volatile market, especially to the downside, the best thing to do is avoid the headlines.
Yep.
and take a step back and understand that there are the market will have volatility, and sometimes you just have to weather the storm and realize that it's not as bad. If it was an earnings disaster, if it was something where there was something behind it, a yen carry trade, everyone's like, what is the yen carry trade? And I'm just like, if you don't understand it, then don't make it a big deal that it really wasn't a big deal. It was a one-day phenomenon. But it was an earnings disaster. Like, God forbid, let's say NVIDIA comes out with bad earnings. Then you have to take that into effect in regards to how it would affect the markets. Because NVIDIA has been the number one horse. It's the powerhouse now. But if it's something where it's an outside headline that 95% of people don't even understand what it is, it really doesn't matter.
I just want to say, if NVIDIA does have bad earnings next week or the week after, it's going to be a fucking disaster.
Oh, yeah. That's what people need to watch. Yeah. Because NVIDIA has been driving the market for quite some time. And if NVIDIA comes out without a blockbuster report, then you need to, take a step back and be like, okay, this is something that I need to understand, because this whole move is, on the backing of NVIDIA. I remember it was like a year or so ago when NVIDIA first started to talk about AI. It was a couple of years back.
No, it was May of last year. Oh,
was it
no.
May of last year where they came out with their earnings and it was just like, I literally was announcing the earnings and I was like, oh my God, these numbers are unbelievable. I've never seen a report.
Last year. That was May last year? Yeah, when they started printing money.
Oh my God.
The news went like 4x and it was absolutely absurd for a company.
I've never seen a report like that. And at that point, you got to be like, okay.
Yeah.
This is something you need to watch. When it comes to the news side, I focus more on what has been moving the markets. Clearly, nothing has been hurting the market. The market's been like Teflon. Nothing hurts this market. But what has pushed the market to highs has been NVIDIA, AI. And if something happens in that area, that's something that I would pay attention to as a news trader, is understanding why the market is where it is. Even inflation doesn't hurt the market. It's so crazy, but you follow what has been moving the markets. And in my opinion, one of the key things that has been moving the market has been NVIDIA and the horsemen behind NVIDIA. And if NVIDIA has a bad report, I think that that's something that people need to.
So how do you treat that, right? When you have a catalyst that is working, you treat it as if it's going to continue to work until it does not, right? So like the AI.
Yes, what I realized, Steve, is you can't fight momentum. Momentum right now is to the upside. And if you're going to come out there and fight momentum and fight the Fed, who's going to be cutting, rates, even though, listen, that's a whole other story. But if the Fed comes out and cuts rates, you can't, is there going to be a buy the rumor, sell the news event? Who knows? But, you have to follow what, in my opinion, has been moving the markets. And right now, I don't think there's anything negative out there.
Yeah.
Clearly, the market just powers through everything, and you can't fight momentum at this point.
So I kind of want to dive into this, right? So Sean, like Milton seems to have carved out a niche in being able to differentiate between noise and value, right? So when did this happen? You weren't just like, hey, I'm going to start Trade Exchange because I know what's noise and what's not. Like, how did you learn this skill? What matters, what doesn't? My favorite things that come through the forum, dude, Sean, sometimes something will come through the forum. It'll be like, Bitcoin volume up. It means Bitcoin's ripping. And then his next ping will be no news. Traders must hate that, right? Like he'll call out volume and momentum. And then if he can't find anything, he'll be like, no news.
Listen, people need to know. If the market moves, if a stock is moving, people, we have a little thing in our room where people can talk to the desk. I'll get a message, why are the marijuana names or the cannabis names moving, or why is Bitcoin moving, why is this stock moving? And a lot of times I'm just like, listen, there's no news. Right. I can't, I'm not going to make something up to appease you. There's nothing there. The market is moving on the market's up 2-3% on no headlines. People need to understand that sometimes, it just moves because there are buyers there, and sometimes there's just no news to report.
So and Milton, this begs the question.
Go ahead.
Sorry, this begs the question, Milton. Back in the day when you did trade, were you a news trader? Were you someone who traded off headlines? Was that your thing?
So when I first started to trade, it was technical analysis. That was my thing. I had a mentor that literally I had no, just to give you an idea, I had no backing in this business. I learned everything, either reading books, hands-on, and losing money, I guess you can say. Because the only way you really learn in this business is by, in my opinion, taking those hits and learning from those hits. But when I first started, I was, my quote unquote mentor was a technical analysis a trader. He was doing it for like 15, 20 years prior to me starting. And it was all about technical analysis. And over time, I started to think to myself, there's got to be reasons why these are moving, or what's the reason why XYZ stock is up 8%. And then I started to get into the information in the content. And then understanding that, I was able to, take that information, utilize it with my technical analysis, and it just added that conviction, I guess you can say, in regards to what I was trading when I was a trader. And then I realized that, information is one of the most important things in this business. I think there was like the Seinfeld episode when Newman said, if you control the mail, you control information, or something like that.
Exactly what he said. You control the mail, you control information.
Exactly. So, and that is one of the things, it's true. Information in this business is very valuable. And when I started to, trade off of information back when it was early 2000s, I guess you can say, and going into 2007 and 8, luckily I survived that disaster. But going into 2007 and 8, the reason why I was able to survive that is because I became more of a news trader. And I started to understand how news could affect markets overall. And that actually gave me that opportunity of, benefiting off of what happened in 07 and 08, because understanding the reasons behind a move is very important, I guess you can say. And the reason why I eventually wanted to start the trade exchange is because back then it was a little harder to get information, and it was very expensive to get information. So, me and a couple of other traders that I've known for some time, we were like, there's got to be a better way. And there's got to be a way where everyone can take advantage of this information, because it's not fair for just a certain level of trader to understand, and understand why certain stocks are moving and getting that inside look in regards to the volatility in markets. So, we started to tinker a few things here and there. And then the idea of trade exchange came up, and then, we did a lot of work, a lot of back testing. It took us, a year or so just to get the confidence that this is something that would benefit other traders. And that was the goal. The goal was to help other traders, better their trading styles. That was our main goal. Even like when we first started, our mission statement, I guess you can say, for Trade Exchange was we wanted to offer everyone the same competitive advantages and resources that all the financial institutions had back in the days at a price that anyone could afford. And that was the goal of what we did with the Trade Exchange. We wanted to get people comfortable and understand that the information is there, and the way we do it, we streamlined it where there's no quote unquote noise. The noise is what people always are like, getting confused with, I guess you can say. That's why our thought process was like, keep it streamlined and provide information that's always going to be that actionable info. And that's when, we sat down, we built it, we tested it, we had a whole bunch of people try it out. And then, people were like, this is good. You should do something with this.
Well, Milton, as a trader who consumes news and headlines and data points like that, what do you think, in your opinion, is most important or most valuable to a trader who trades the news? Is it the speed of getting the news quickly, or getting the context of why it really matters? Which do you think is more important?
I think the top two things when it comes to a news trader is the speed and the accuracy of the information. I've seen numerous times headlines being disseminated via social media or other desks or whatever, and the accuracy was not there. So you may get a headline and maybe, they summarize it because they don't want to put the whole thing, and it's taken out of context. So one thing that I always try to do, 100% of the time, is make sure that the information is accurate. And if the information is not accurate, then making sure that that information is provided to our subscribers in regards to action in a specific name. Let's say, GE had a headline that was being circulated, through social media or other desks, and it wasn't really an accurate headline. We'll mention that, but we'll mention, please keep in mind, the information is not, accurate. It's unconfirmed. People need to understand that sometimes the information is not all about the speed. It's about making sure that it's accurate as well on top of that. But speed and accuracy, I think, are the number one. And understanding, really, Sean, understanding what really moves the name in the market, because I go through 10,000 headlines a day. My news desk probably has 60 or 70 specific headlines in there. So understanding what actually moves a name or the market is another aspect that, we try to make sure that people understand. With the trade exchange, you may not get a full boatload of, 5,000-10,000 headlines. You're going to get the ones that matter,
which is important.
That's what I believe is key.
So is there not like an extra or third element that it's speed, it's accuracy, but it's also reaction, right? In other words, sometimes news comes out, we think as traders it's really going to matter, right? And then you see it and either it doesn't matter, or the price action tells us that it matters in the opposite direction. In other words, Meta comes out, it's 2022. The stock's down 80%. They announce a disgusting earnings report. They miss on the top line. They miss on the bottom line. There's literally like no redeeming qualities on their earnings report, but the stock's up 15%.
Yeah.
Right. So
sometimes it doesn't matter.
Right.
See, sometimes I'll read a headline and I'm like, this is a very positive headline. And then the market does the complete opposite. So I've seen situations where even I've been doing this for so long, I still learn every single day. I'll see a headline or an earnings report, just like you said with Meta, and I'm just like, this should not be happening. Sometimes, it's better to get an understanding, even if you're a little bit late to the game. There's always a trade to be made. If there's a headline coming out and the move is already done, I know a lot of people don't like to short, but you can short the stock. You can buy a put. There's always a trade to be made when it comes to a news or content. What that does is it adds that volatility. And as a trader, you need volatility to make money in this business. I can't buy a stock that has, a volume of like 50,000. I need that movement. I need to be able to be like, okay, I can buy it here and sell it up here, or sell it up here and short up here and buy it back down here. You need that movement. And with headlines and content, that movement is provided for a trader. And at that point, it's up to the trader to make that their due diligence and be like, okay, has the move been made? Will I be making money on the downside? It's the reaction 100% as well. Sometimes I know traders that are so fast, like literally with their hotkeys. By the time I finish a squawk, they'll be out of the name, and I'm just like, and they tell me like, oh man, thank you so much. And I'm like, you're done already? Like they'll be literally in the matter of seconds in and out of a trade. It's the reaction. Either you have that reaction, or sometimes you want to take a step back and let it do what it needs to do to get that conviction in regards to either buying it or going the opposite direction. But sometimes the market just does what the market does. You can't fight it, and Meta is a perfect example. I've seen it happen so many times where the guidance is super strong and they're selling the stock.
So what do you say to a trader who they're reading all the same headlines you're reading? Everything is bearish, 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 whatever, bad news everywhere, but the stock's going up. And a trader is thinking, well, wait a second, I'm short and everything that I'm reading corroborates my position, but the stock's going the other way. Like, what do you say to somebody like that?
Listen, I'll give you a perfect example. Can I mention the stock? I don't know if I can mention.
Sure, go ahead.
So, like literally a few weeks ago, there was a stock called Cassava Sciences.
Oh God.
SAVA. The stock literally came out with it was nonstop negative headlines on this name. I'm not that familiar with it, but it was a perfect example in regards to what you were saying.
One of these promoted stocks.
One of the most promoted stocks.
Chops
got on it was all legal this, legal that. The trial results were fudged. People on social media saying it's going to go to zero. And what happened? The stock got hit for 3 days and literally went to almost new highs in a matter of a week on zero headlines. Zero headlines.
I'm looking at the chart now. That's quite a ride.
What's going on? And that's what's so exciting. You can tell by how excited I am. It's understanding that sometimes, you have to avoid all the negativity because a lot of the people are either, you have to think to yourself, are they shorter? Are they shorting the stock? Do they have a reason to constantly be against it? And then when the stock starts to not act the way it's supposed to act, maybe it's time to reevaluate what's going on because that stock had nonstop negative headlines, yet it reversed and it shot up in days, 15, 20, 30% in days. I'm just like, there was no explanation, but that's what they do sometimes, So
does that in your line of business, the people who rely on news and headlines, are situations like this where a stock has a crazy move with absolutely no news at all? Does that drive your type of traders crazy?
Oh yes, I had a trader. A perfect example. I had a trader today. I think the company was ASTS. The stock was trading literally at $2 in May. And the stock's at 31 something today, or so I hit 32.
We talked about this one in the analyst meeting the other day, Sean.
Yep.
And then everyone's asking, was like, what's going on with the stock? How could it go? How could a stock go from $2 to $31 in the matter of 2 months, 2.5 months? And I don't think I even mentioned, I think they had earnings or something. I don't even think I even mentioned specific news for this stock. It just, sometimes they just move. I think there was another one. Like a car insurance company or Root. I think the symbol is ROOT or something like that. And it just literally just kept going higher. And people were like, this is an online car insurance quoting company. How is this possible?
But isn't there like an extra special thing there? Like, so ASTS, I know they had earnings, dude. They bombed on top and bottom line. Stock is up 58, 60%. Is that not some of the best information when the news is bearish and the reaction is extraordinarily bullish like that? Like, is that not some of the best opportunities that we have as traders?
100%.
People are off.
It's tough because, sometimes it bothers me when I don't have an answer for people. And they always ask me, like, why is this up so much? Or like when Starbucks was up, the other day on the CEO change, why is it up so much? Was he that good at Chipotle, or was is it that big of news? And sometimes I'm just like, they clearly, yes. Yeah. Because the stock was up, Starbucks was up so much. It's just like sometimes people need a change, like Nike. They need one little positive spin to the stock that's been getting decimated for so long. They need that change to be like, you know what? This is something that I can go get behind. The new CEO. Let's see what can happen. Or with the Nike or Ulta, even today, with Buffett. Yeah. There's got to be a reason why they're in these names, and it gives them that comfort, I guess you can say. Being able to be like, okay, new CEO, maybe new policies, maybe new ways of running the business. Starbucks is one of the biggest ones out there. Then you have Kramer saying, it's just a start. All you need is one thing usually sometimes. And Sometimes it's a negative thing for a positive thing, just like Meta. People thought, you know what? They threw everything out the window. This is the bottom. Let's move forward because this is the turn for Meta. And look what happened to Meta.
Yeah, sometimes they throw in the kitchen sink. Like you could look at something with the Starbucks, Chipotle, and say a CEO change shouldn't do this. Well, it did.
Well, it did.
Who am I to say that the market is wrong, right? There are people with more money than me, make more informed decisions than me about the market. And then I get to see that reflected in price action. We shouldn't doubt it.
Listen, I've seen so many. Every other day, there's a new CEO change in companies.
Right. And they don't move.
They don't move.
Yep.
But this one moved because people believed. And like I said, there's bigger money behind it than us. And either they really believe in the change, or, people just got a little nervous, or if they were, they wanted to put a little money to work. Who knows? But clearly, people saw that as a positive. You had multiple, positive comments out by analysts on that as well. So
I think it's just the halo effect, right? It's the halo effect. They see the chart of Chipotle, they see what that's done, and they're like, oh, this guy must have the magic touch. He's going to bring that to Starbucks. That's it. It's as simple as that. Not saying that's right, but that's what people are probably thinking.
It might be right. I mean, they run that guacamole machine. It's a smooth operator.
Listen, they must be doing something good over there, because that thing just, you sit back and just like, every time I go to Chipotle in this area, it's always packed. So they must be doing something right.
I eat there about once a week myself.
Yeah. Do you really?
Oh, yeah.
I don't have one. Is there one in Norwalk, Milt, or no?
There's right on the Norwalk Darien border. There's one right on going into Darien. There's one right over there, and they're going to be. I think they're going to be bringing one over into Wilton too. I think soon.
Dude, what's the name? What's the name of that arepas joint? The Venezuelan spot. There you go. Valencia. That's where you go.
Oh yeah, that's the spot here.
That's where you go.
Okay, full disclosure.
It's literally right down the block from my office too. So we get
full
that
disclosure. Nobody watching this knows that Milton's in Connecticut, so we're talking about Connecticut here for a second.
Yes, Connecticut.
Specifically about it's East Main, right? East Main, Norwalk, Connecticut, right?
Main Street, Norwalk, Connecticut.
Main Street, whatever.
Right on top of Blackstone Steakhouse.
Oh, don't go down that rabbit hole.
I know.
All right, Milton. Speaking of steakhouses and old fashions, there was some talk of steak and old fashioned earlier before we went live. I'm curious what you do and the services you provide. That takes a lot of attention to detail. You are a guy, you got 1 million screens at your desk. I imagine you are working your ass off 10 hours a day. Great. What the hell do you do to unwind from all that noise that you're looking at all day long?
Is that a chessboard behind you? Say you play.
Yes, it is.
I dare you to tell me you finish doing what you do every day and then go play chess with people.
I have a couple of our engineers are in the back offices. Okay. And I play I play a game of chess. We don't finish it, but we play a couple moves every day after work.
Really?
With him. Yes.
That's so cool.
It's to answer your question, in my opinion, everyone always asks me, what do you do to unwind? I'm usually up at 5, 6 in the morning, and, I'm not usually done till about 5, 6 o'clock in the evening. So long days. But I love what I do. I love, this is a passion, not a job for me. But at the end of the day, what I like to do, literally, I like to go home, relax, and I like to unwind the mind by not focusing on finance or the markets. Right. I like to have a drink, a cigar, chill out, at the house.
Are you a ball game guy? Do you put a game on the TV? What do you do?
I love football. That's my thing. As you guys can see, I have a fantasy football trophy in the back that I won last year. But football is my thing, and this is why I love this time of the year. Just watching some football, tuning out the noise, and just enjoy, because people are like, it's the money never sleeps. the markets numbers, because if the US is closed, then you got overseas, then you got European markets.
Look, crypto,
Bitcoin, crypto's 24 hours. They're probably going to make this business 24 hours soon, anyways. But you have to be able to, in my opinion, you need to be able to take the business. Once I leave this office, I leave the business here. And I always tell people, when you come into the office, just focus on what needs to get done. I'm not asking any of my employees, this is my passion. This is what I love to do. My people that work with me, and our developers, they love it, but they're not at that point where they believe that, they always ask me, how can you do this all day long? It's a passion, it's a love, but at the end of the day, you have to be able to unwind and have your me time. If you don't, you're going to go crazy. So literally after this, I'm going to probably go downstairs, get myself a drink, talk to the crowd down there, get some, maybe a little something to munch on, and then literally go home, relax, and start the routine a new day. But other than that, weekend wise, focus on the family, focus on, what I got to do at the house, and, but I try to keep work in the markets in the back of my head during the weekend, so I can at least recharge and get ready for the week ahead.
All right, so two things. Stop. Two things. How many rounds of golf are you playing on the weekends? Are you doubling up?
So what I do every weekend, I have me and my cousin and two of my friends.
Yeah. We
go play golf, either a par 3 course we'll do, or if we want to do the full course, we'll do a full course.
Right.
But we try to do one once every couple of weeks. We try to get a game in there.
Yep.
It's one of the best things to do. I have to say, I'm not an avid golfer, but when I have the opportunity, I will never say no. Yep. Because getting out there, getting the sun, clearing the head, playing the game of golf, enjoying that time with your friends, and hopefully winning, it makes it all worth it at the end, because you get that free time and you get that time to just unwind and relax and not have any worries, especially in this type of a market, in my opinion.
You're hanging out with friends. You're not thinking about the market while you're golfing.
They'll ask me nonstop, what's your thought on this? What's your thought on that? Do you buy this? Should I buy this? Should I be buying oil? What should I, do I get into
shut up, have another beer?
Gold? Huh?
What do you tell them? Shut up, have another beer?
Listen, I try to avoid any and all of those questions. Now, recently, everyone's like, am I going to buy Bitcoin? And I'm like, listen, when it comes to the crypto markets, I really have no thoughts on that. But, my close people that I associate with, they know, not to talk about business when we're doing, when we're outside of business, I guess you can say.
Good.
Because they all work, they all have stressful jobs, careers, and if you don't have that time outside of that, I think it'll drive you crazy.
Yep. Well, Milton, I'm hoping you could help me out here. I think you and I need to team up here. I want to start winding this podcast down, but I want to talk about, let's embarrass our friend Steve a little bit. Let's put Steve on a spot.
I'll keep going.
Let's talk about how green Steve Straza was when he was first hanging around your office many years ago. Tell us about a green
Listen,
Straza.
I'll tell you one thing about Steve.
Tell the truth, Milton. Tell the truth.
I'll tell you one thing about Steve.
I knew nothing.
I've been in this, like I said, I've been in this business since 25 years, and that's crazy to say. 25 years. I've met a lot of people. I've met a lot of people interested in the business, trying to get into the business. I've seen people come and go in my office, either interns or people that want just information or to learn. Steve was the one person that I can honestly say was the most dedicated in understanding what this bit. And he came from accounting, right, Steve? You weren't.
I had just left. I had just quit the Big Four.
He literally was one of the one people, and I've been, I try to educate a lot of people. Steve was one of the one people that actually took heart to this business, and he was writing research reports and this and that. I'm like, what are you doing, man? I was
doing biographies. Milton, I was doing biographies on people who sat on the Fed board.
Yeah. Listen.
Why?
What?
He just wanted all that knowledge. And he kept asking questions. And even at some points, I'm like, Steve, you know more than I do in certain things. And I've been doing this for so much longer. But it's like, people just, like I said, at the end of the day, it's more of a passion, this business. And if you have that passion, you take all that information and just like a sponge, you soak it up. Steve just went at it and read and writing reports and understanding markets and asking questions. And I got to give him, that's why I believe that our relationship has lasted so long. Because
Milton,
we still work off each other.
Milton, you're letting me down. I was really hoping you would have something embarrassing to say about Steve.
I wish I could, but there's a lot of people I can say a lot of bad things about, but I can honestly say, I at first did not expect Steve to be that involved. Because I remember there was somebody else with you, Steve, that came to the office. Yeah. And that, I don't even know what happened to that person, but
TJ. Yeah.
What was his name?
TJ.
Yes. And right off the bat, some of the people who used to work here, George, I was like, this kid's different than that kid. And that person was Steve. I was like, you can tell when someone is there for the right reasons rather than just trying to, take advantage of a situation. Steve was there for the right reasons. Steve learned a lot, I hope, through being with us in the beginning. It was good to say that, where Steve is right now, I can be like, what? Me and Steve, we started off together basically in this business, but
you're so good to me. I was in my sponge phase when I first walked in your office in 2015. I was stealing all your books, stealing all your knowledge. And I'll never forget it. It was fun, dude. You were building stuff. You were trying new things. We were experimenting with different forms of content. Like, it was a blast. And that was honestly, where I am now, looking back 9 years later, in this fintech space that we are now very much in, Sean. That was my first foray into it, right? I had a real market person who had really done it, right? Figured out the markets, but it was also like we were approaching it from a fintech standpoint, right? Like, how do we start? And that's just from an entrepreneurial standpoint helped me so much, just to watch Milton try to build that business. Dude, it was a disaster back then. I look at your office now, like, holy cow, dude, you got to
tell you. If I can look back, I remember when we first started, I didn't get any sleep. Like we were, we were on a shoestring budget when we first started. It was all sweat equity. We developed our own programs, our own softwares. We built our own website, because we didn't have the backing. We were just doing it because we believed in something and that we wanted it to become successful. And what I learned is, it takes a lot of work, but at the end of the day, all those days staying up late, having issues, I remember days where I would have to wake up 3 a.m. because there was an issue with one of our, back end things. And we had to contact India, or we had to talk to someone, overseas because, they needed to get access to this and access to that. But at the end of the day, all that made us into what we are today, because if we didn't have those problems in the start, I think we'd be a very different company where we are today. I think those made us stronger. Those made us realize, through, building a business, you're going to have a lot of issues. And you either hit those issues head on and learn from them, or you let those issues take you down and then, That's it. A lot of hard days, a lot of long nights.
When I look back now, Milton, I think it's pretty obvious what happened. You took your trader mindset, you're alone on an island, you applied that into a new entrepreneurial spirit, right? Where you were still very alone on an island doing your thing, right? And you found a niche. You figured out as a trader or as an investor that there was a product or service that needed to exist that did not currently exist, right? And that's what great innovators do. That's what we do at All Star Charts. We're like, dude, we got to build this. This doesn't exist. Like, we have to build this. We need it selfishly. It's a selfish endeavor. And you realize, like, there's something here that I can give to my other fellow traders and investors that they don't currently have, right? That's so good and so valuable. And then you just went for it. And that's got to be a crazy, lonely journey if you want to just, we'll wrap it up. If you want to just end on, like, what that was like for you. I know it wasn't easy, especially early on.
It was very hard. And the reason why it was very hard was, like I said in the beginning, I don't have many, I can't say, oh yeah, well, I have all these contacts in this business. And I did this with nothing, and a lot of people are saying, oh, well, you're not going to succeed. There's so many other people out there that'll just eat you up. It's going to cost you so much money, so much time, but one thing that I remember that made me believe that with my partners in the beginning, that it can be successful. I remember one day I was in New York City, and I went to visit a firm in New York to give them this idea and see if it's something that they would, be interested in. And I sat down with the head people of that company, and they were throwing these ideas and they were throwing these questions at me, and we were just banging them all out, perfect answers. They were asking, regarding some news that happened 6 months ago, and boom, we had the answer. And one executive at that company said, he told me, he's like, Milt, he's like, I gotta say one thing. He's like, first, you guys are, an interesting group of traders, an interesting group of people that are looking to build. Then the next one was like, well, you guys are basically too small, which I've gotten that so many times. But he said, I wish I can take your mind and put it into any and all of my other traders. He's like, your thought process when it comes to utilizing information and benefiting off that information and making a successful career. He's like, I can put your mind against any of my traders, and I think you would succeed above and beyond any of them. At that point, I was like, you know what? I can't let this not work. So we literally went back, to the office. We took that as a positive. And, at the end of the day, so many of people told us, it's not going to work. The market is just not for you guys. And literally at the end of the day, the biggest successful thing for me is to show that it did work. It was a success. I believe it's a success because at the end of the day, I'll get emails, I'll get messages from people that utilize our service, and they love the fact that we are able to help them make their life better. That alone is what makes me happy in what I do. Even though I work, I can't call it work. Even though I do what I do because it's what I love, at the end of the day, the reason why I try to constantly make it better for my members is the fact that at the end of the day, I know it's helping them make their lives better, I guess you can say. That's what makes it good for me. And that's why, people always say, it's not all about the money. Yeah, you need the money to succeed and to, employ your employees. At the end of the day, it's the fact that I'm helping people better their investment style and, providing that extra, profit in regards to helping out their families or any type of thought process like that. That's what makes me want to do this more and more each day.
Listen, I was going to give you a shameless plug at the end of this podcast about the trade exchange, but I don't think I could have wrapped it up in better words than that you just did.
Yeah.
You have a beautiful brain for markets. I am so grateful, and I was so lucky to meet you at a time where I was so hungry and so thirsty for knowledge. And
Listen,
you entertained me in a moment
not to
where
interrupt, but trust me, the same way. It makes me happy to know that you've succeeded to where you are. And the fact that we started together in the business, and the fact that we were able to work off of each other's knowledge, it makes me happy that, to see where you are currently at All Star. And this makes me like, this is what the business is all about. Some people, think, oh, Wall Street, you guys are a bunch of, scumbags and this and that. No, this business, just like any other business, you have that, but it's the fact of the relationships that, benefit me in regards to what I do. If I didn't start Trading Exchange, I would never have met you guys. And listen, it would have been a shame because, it's the knowledge that we share together is what makes me a smarter and more, it drives me more to do what I do. Your ideas, the thoughts you guys provide, mentioning filings and SEC stuff, adjusting this, adjusting that. It gives us the opportunity to be like, you know what? Let's do it. Let's make these changes because of the value that we have, in regards to our relationship.
Sean, you got anything? We're going to wrap this thing up. This is a perfect ending.
No, this is great. Milton, thanks for taking the time to talk to us and give us a perspective from someone who deals in a commodity that's very important to traders. I think this has been very instructive to a lot of us, myself included. Hey, man, congrats for persisting in your business and doing it, bootstrapping it, man. That's awesome.
Thank you very much. I appreciate the time. I appreciate you having me on. I don't do many of these. And when Steve asked me, I was like, you know what? I was like, I don't think I've ever done a podcast. I've had numerous people always ask me to, but once Steve mentioned to me, I was like, you know what, Steve, no question about it. Let's do it.
And I appreciate that. I appreciate that.
It's at the end of the day, I just want to let everyone know that, it's the business is, I would say, if you're good in trading, it's the best business in the world. Understanding the markets, understanding this business and taking in the knowledge, if it's something that you want to do, don't give up. I've lost so much money when I first started trading, but you learn from it and you get better and you get better. And then at the end of the day, if you ever, there's one thing I could say, then I'll finish it off. One person always told me when I was trading, there's 4 stages in the trade: a big profit, small loss, big loss. If you get rid of the big losses, you'll always make money. So if you can understand that sometimes selling a position at a loss is not really selling at a loss, you're basically learning, take that small loss and understand that you'll always be able to make money if you follow that pattern. No big losses. And you'll always make money.
I love it, dude. Milton,
all right, Strezza, send us off, buddy. Send us off.
Milton, listen, you're always going to have a special place in my heart as one of my early mentors. I love you, man. The Trade Exchange guys, again, we're not trying to make a shameless plug here. I don't get paid for this. I spend more time on this than any other data provider or service that we use at All Star Charts. This is really the best thing that we do. It's run by Milton. As long as it's always run by Milton, it's always going to be the best. And this was truly a beautiful conversation. I really enjoyed it. Thank you, my friend. This was great. So, Sean, I hope that wasn't too much of a love fest with Milton, but this is truly one of my real mentors in the early days when I had no idea where I was going with my career. I was trying to leave the accounting world, trying to make my way into the investing and trading world. And this is just one of those guys who, when he really didn't have any reason to believe in me or talk to me or help me out, just kind of dove in, invested in me and helped me out in a moment and a time where I was going through a transitionary phase in my life where I needed that. And this is one.
How did you meet him?
What?
How did you meet him?
Through a friend who grew up in the same town as me, who knew another friend who was in a completely different business with another friend of Milton's. Then we just kind of found our way into his office one day and never looked back. In fact, We did a podcast back then, like 8 years ago. I hope no one can ever hear it. It's probably out there somewhere, but that was like the last podcast I did before ours.
Oh, wow. Well, look, Milton doesn't trade anymore, but I think all traders can relate to the struggle that he went through in starting his business and really doing it himself, and bootstrapping it with no money. I think there's a lot of traders that listen to our podcast that can relate to that struggle. And, you know, he's dealing in a commodity that traders need, right? I mean, some of us need it more than others, depending on what we do and what our strategies and what our time frames are. But, you know, it's good to put a face to the name behind the brand that's providing a lot of great services for people. And I thought he was great to talk to. Thanks for that was your friend. Thanks for bringing him on, Straza.
No, that was awesome. We'll have him on again. Very fun conversation. Again, he gave me this book like 8 years ago. Crazy. I still have it.
I love it. I love it.
And sometimes it's not the news and what to do with the news, but like he helps you navigate what not to do with the news, right? Like this is the news, and guys, it doesn't matter. Like you need a guy like that who just knows the news flow enough to can tell and can judge by price action what matters, what doesn't. This is what the market's reacting to, and he's really helped me navigate my way, my whole career.
That might be the most important thing about news is knowing what to ignore, because there's so much of it, so much of it.
That's my favorite stuff that comes to the forum. You know, big volume pop, no news. I'm like, that's fantastic. I love it.
All right, man. Great job. Great job.